All right, welcome back to Restaurantopia. We've got a fantastic episode coming at you with a little bit of Brian Thank You Sites. Amazing show notes as we really pride ourselves in making sure we get great content to you to review after you listen to this. Brian's episode today is the anatomy of a great social media post. Excited to talk about this because I think this is something that's definitely not going away, and it's something we want to really focus on restaurant operators because they're probably, when you look at the industry of restaurants, potentially like behind most industries as far as social media. Mm-hmm. So I think this is going to be a great refresher if you're doing it, or something you can actually probably use to get started, right, Brian?
100%.
I also want to give a shout out to our one and only sponsor, Hillcrest Foods. If you're a local independent restaurant out there, you really should reach out to Hillcrest Foods because they are a true, genuine partner in your business. They're really going to do everything they've got to do to make sure that you're out there doing the right things and serving customers and profitable and around. Love them very much and very grateful for their sponsorship of this podcast. So check them out online at hillcrestfoods.com.
Love it.
Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restaurantopia.
Today we have the recipe of a good social media post. So many people look at social media as alchemy, or that it's formula that they can't figure out. I really broke it down into a easy list that's digestible, that's repeatable. We'll go into these 7 elements of a good social media post, and the first one is a hook, a short sentence, something that gets the viewer's interest.
This is actually, I feel like this is more important than people think, because a lot of times especially when using text in a post, like sometimes when you just post a video or you post a picture, but when you've got a decent amount of text in a post, that first sentence is super important because actually almost, I think it's every platform, it doesn't show the whole length of the text. So the first line, listen, I'm not a social media expert, but like what I try to do in my posts is, I try to have a very short first line with a period, and then I put a couple spaces because you always get that see more and then it expands.
Yeah.
So I try to you got hook here, and then they go see more, and then and then you got your text.
It's a very practical way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
And that's true, because what the person is going to see is just that snippet, and it may only be one line. So it's got to be, did you know, it's something to a call to action, something that they need to see. Mm-hmm. Because if you bury your call to action or your hook into the body of the text, they're never going to see it.
Yeah, somebody may not even go that far. Right?
And sometimes you have to put that, and we're going to get into it in step 3, but you got to put that in the photo, put text in the photo so it grabs them.
Can I talk about this too? And you had mentioned alchemy, and it does seem like a little alchemy for people. But what I find too, and I'm glad you did this, is because I think a lot of people running social media for their companies, they look at this as such a chore. It's a burden. And then I think they get frustrated. They maybe get a little anxiety about it. And then all of a sudden what happens is it becomes disingenuous, right? So they're just doing it to do it. They're just going through the motions. And that's so counterproductive for what you're trying to do, because especially now, authenticity is everything. People want to see behind the curtain. They want to see the real you and rally around you. And then you just have someone just going through the motions, filing out heartless posts,
And I think that's where you sit down and you put together your social media calendar and what that looks like over the next, say, whatever it's, you do it in 3-month increments or what have you. Now, you need to
start off with a week. I think some of the anxiety is that you wake up and you're like, I got to do a post. Okay, what do I do? But if you already have it thought out and planned, that's the biggest hurdle, I would think.
Hootsuite has changed me. You guys taught me this loading up in whatever technology you use, but you guys turned that on to me. I've been rock solid and consistent since you guys told me. It's so much easier to do it in an hour when I'm feeling it.
Yes.
Get it knocked out. And it's actually a nice surprise because I'm looking at my own post oh, no shit, I posted that. All right, cool.
But you don't have to use Hootsuite as long as you sit down and do the exercise of, I'm going to put together 10 posts. And one of the giveaways that we're going to put in this episode show notes is 25 campaigns for restaurants. So if you go to our website, restaurantopia.com, and go to this episode, you're going to see 25 campaigns that you can implement for your restaurant. So really cool stuff that I pulled from social media experts that I know that will help you brainstorm and implement a campaign, whether it's, I'm going to give you a little gold nugget here, but it's the word of the day. So if you have an word of the week. It's the word of the week. If you have an Italian themed concept, you do one Italian word a week for, say, 10 weeks, and then any person that comes in and says this word, they get 10% off. So it lets you know that you're engaging with your customers, but those campaigns will be in the show notes. All you have to do is sign up for our mailing list, and you'll be able to get those. Very
I've seen that in action before, and it works. And all of a sudden, it becomes a game, right? So now it's a challenge to the customers. Yeah. So if they were sitting on the fence about coming to your place now they're definitely coming to your place because A, the discount's nice, but B, they want to be that person that says, I got the word. Like we love wins, right?
Or you say the word of the week, and you get entered into a drawing. So like those sorts of things really gamify the system and let your customers interact with you.
But also, it's fun.
No, I like that. I don't know if gamify is a word, but I love that.
It is.
You just use that, but it's exactly what you're doing. It gets people feeling involved and wanting to do it. It creates a fun thing. I love that.
Well, I think Brian hit it on the head. It's engaged, right? Yeah. Now it's a two-way street. You're giving value to them for participating.
Yeah. Can I get that free 25?
Oh no, for you it's $19.99. 3 easy installments.
I pulled this from social media experts all around Ohio. It's rock solid. This is a really strong list. Check it out on restauranttopia.com.
Perfect.
Number 2 here. Make it digestible. You do not want to have a solid 10,000 word paragraph that you're trying to post on social media. Break it up, people. 5 or 6 lines, smaller paragraphs. This is not 8th grade English class. You need to make it so it's digestible. Break up the content. Make it visually appealing. Very digestible. Break up the content.
I think that's important, man, because a lot of times we don't think about we get so lost in our own deal, and then we don't think about actually the end user. And I think that's really insightful of you to say, look, you get 30 seconds. Work in that 30-second window. Because I'm one of those people.
You're a flick of the thumb of being
100%. And I'm one of those people that'll write that 10,000 word paragraph. So I'm going to heed that advice. I'm going to go back to Hootsuite and rework all my posts.
Well, and also I think it's okay to do something longer. Yeah. But you just got to make it easy for somebody to digest. Yeah. I think that's part of it. And you gave me some great feedback. Like I sent an email to you guys to get feedback before I sent it out, and you were like, "Hey, do some bullet points, do some stuff." And I thought, "Oh, that's brilliant!" Because it is easier to scan bullet points, and it's just easier to digest. So this makes a lot of sense.
And think about how is it going to look on a phone. Yeah, because that's where most of this content's being consumed is on a phone. So it looks great on your laptop, but when it's on a phone, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
Number 3, this is so important, and I encourage you to use the camera I encourage you to use the phone in your pocket. It has an amazing camera, an amazing video on it. Start taking video. Start taking photos of your food. You don't need to use stock images. You are creating everyday amazing content in your restaurant. All you need to do is capture it.
Yeah, I like a second dynamic. You have the food post somewhere. There's a smiling face behind it in the background. The one company we were in the stadium here, and we'd take pictures of our food with the green grass behind it. So it let people know where you're at too. So it was always like a secondary dynamic. It wasn't just about that one dish. It was here's the dish. Oh, and here's something else for you too. And it just added layers of awesomeness.
Yeah, it wasn't this dish like in a light box that could be anywhere.
Yeah. No, and I'm talking photos of everything, photos of your staff, photos of your restaurant space. Just take photos in the real world and let people know, like, hey, we're here. This is what it looks like.
It all adds to the experience of the visit for the customer. So they want to know what is the ambiance, what's the decor look like, what's the food look like, what the people, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
So it all, most restaurants, you've got uniforms, you've got everybody looks a certain way. Like let people see that, and that's going to hopefully be what's going to entice them.
And we talked about in episode 1 too, one of the advantages of the independent restaurant is the humanization of the process, right? It's not just a faceless company. Right. So then when you let people peek behind the curtain, all of a sudden they see the people, they see the personalities that make this come to fruition, and all of a sudden they get that attachment to it, right? So again, we come back to authenticity, and we come back to the humanization, and we talk about the independent advantage.
You have such amazing apps now that are so cheap. Go to Adobe apps on your phone in the App Store or Google Play Store. Photoshop Express, Premiere Rush, Spark Post, Photoshop Camera. Some are free, some are like $5-10 a month. It is worth getting. Mm-hmm. They can make your photography look amazing.
You look like Ansel Adams over there.
And in seconds. I'm talking like what you're able to do with the post, whether it's put text on the picture or put some other logo or something on your photo, is very, very high. So even if that person is not viewing the text of your post, they're seeing the photo and they're seeing your logo, or they're seeing some other information that you put on there. When you're looking at an Instagram or a platform like that, that's very important.
Yeah, and I think adding that stuff into the photography helps because, again, they may be scrolling past, but that's branding. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're seeing, okay, you see that logo, and then boom, the next day they see it again. And then, it just becomes something that's in the forefront. And then, and I'm assuming we're putting these links for these apps in the show notes, because this would be like, I mean, these are so easy to use. I mean, Brian turned me on to some of these, and it's so simple. Yeah.
And let's face it too, because when people look at your restaurant, they definitely want to look at the food. We've all established that through Instagram or whatever. We all eat with our eyes, and we do it remotely too and help making a decision. But I love this because you control the narrative more. I mean, everybody takes pictures of their food, but putting focus on the quality of pictures and using these apps, you control the narrative now of how your food looks. Because if you go to the review sites, like the open forum review sites, your food looks terrible. Because you have people using flash and wrong angle, and it's half eaten.
Why are you taking the photo mid-meal?
Because there's no consequence for them.
No, did you see the guy I can't remember the account on Instagram, but he took photos of his plate after he ate, because he was trying to be the anti food photography thing. He's like, oh, it was so good.
That's awesome.
This is how you know it's really good. Like the plate's empty. Like,
that's kind of fantastic though.
It's for a second, but I'm not following that.
Well, no, it's not sustainable, right? It's not sustainable, but it's good for a laugh. But anyway, you go to these review sites. There's a major one out there, and your food looks terrible. What happens though as a diner is if I'm Googling your restaurant or I'm looking up your restaurant and you don't offer me enough by way of pictures, I'm going to go to a secondary source to find those pictures. And then by default, I'm going to these review sites and I'm seeing these half-assed pictures that make your company look terrible. So don't let people go to that secondary source. Be the source for them. Control your destiny is what I'm trying to say.
That's a great point. And I agree with Brian. Like, you can do a lot of things with the camera on your phone. Like, they're amazing these days.
Yeah, they're unbelievable.
But also, I want to throw a shameless plug in here. Like, if you want to really get some professional food photography done, reach out to Eat Local Ohio. Go on Instagram, DM Eat Local Ohio, and let them know. Like, say, hey, I'm a local restaurant. Would you guys come out and feature us? And so what they'll do is they'll come out, you'll pick dishes, they'll take pictures, and then you get the pictures. Yeah. You're going to get all the content be featured on the platform.
And they'll teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
That's teaching a man to fish is pretty important, right? Yeah. Like, getting to fish is awesome, but man, if I can fish every day past that, and they do that. They kind of wrote the book on this great photo thing.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah. No, they do really, really good content. I mean, the photos that they put out are 10 times better than anything that you're going to see almost anywhere. They're really good.
Agreed.
All right, number 4, hashtags. I'm still not 100% certain what a hashtag is.
I had a conversation with my wife about this the other day. I'm kidding you not. I'm like, sweetheart, you can't just make up your own hashtags. She's like, why not? That's what you do. And I'm like, first of all, hashtags on Facebook don't make too much of a difference, right? But you can't just make up your own. And she's like, well, what are you supposed to do with them? I'm like, oh my God. So we had to have like a hashtag 101 talk. Like, it was amazing. I had no idea.
Lay it on me. I still, I get it. I understand it. Knock out hashtagging for me.
Well, it just makes it searchable. Right, is what it comes down to, and it dumps your post into a category. So every hashtag is a category. And if people were to go on LinkedIn and look up hospitality management, you'd see a lot of my posts because I dropped that, and that's where I want that post to land in that bucket for people I don't know that are not in my network. So when they're searching for topics they'd like to look into, that's where they start. And I'm assuming it's a generation younger than us because I'll be honest, I've never once searched for a hashtag.
Well, and here's the thing: you can also follow hashtags on a lot of social media platforms. So if you want, if you're big in restaurants, local, like whatever you're into, you can follow that hashtag, and then in your feed, not only are the people you're following be in there, but people that hashtag that will come up. So
the more you know,
follow, so you can do that as well. And people do that. They'll like, I follow hashtag Eat Local Ohio. I follow hashtag Food is Medicine. I follow hashtag like a couple things, a couple different stuff. So you could follow a hospitality management hashtag, and you're going to see everybody else that's using that hashtag.
Yeah,
and see their posts. So, but for me, like I look at it as like there's 3 levels of hashtags. Okay, you've got very popular, I don't want to say generic, but generic hashtags. So
like
local,
leadership, management,
leadership, sales. You got that. So those are like, that's the top level, meaning that there's a lot of traffic. A lot of times when you start typing in the hashtag, it'll say how many people are following it or how many times it's been used, and you're seeing like millions. Local, it's like used 2 million times. And then you've got kind of mid-level hashtags, which are a little bit more unique. Okay,
kind of drilled down.
Yeah, they're a little bit more drilled down. You know what I mean? So when you're looking at a bank of hashtags, I feel like you need, if you're breaking them into thirds, you need a third of top level stuff that's got a lot of followers. You need a third of like kind of middle ones that are maybe just unique to your industry or in that area. And then I feel like you need some that you're creating, but they can't be like we talked about, I think in the LinkedIn episode when we were talking about how to get going on LinkedIn. Like, you can't have like I love Italian food because of the sauce is amazing.
Like my mom's hashtags.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
It's,
She just makes shit up and puts it in a sentence. It's like her
Yeah.
excuse not to use punctuation. Like, it's so funny.
It's like that. It's funny for a second, maybe if
Yeah.
you're reading it, like from as far as viewing it, but it does nothing in the world.
Well,
of
no, she
hashtags
doesn't
because,
understand that hashtags are supposed to be functional in the first place. She literally thinks a hashtag is just you put it up there and then you put a joke behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I mean, it's okay. You might get a chuckle out of somebody, but it doesn't do anything for the social media gods. Like
Right.
so like what we've done is like hashtag Restaurantopia. Okay, so that was never used. Like we created that. So now when you search hashtag Restaurantopia, you follow it, you're gonna see our stuff. You know, localize is another one.
Yep.
You know, Eat Local Ohio was unique to us. Like, you know, so you want some of those too. So you want high level, mid tier, and then ones you kind of created and you want to get traction.
You should have just asked him right off the rip about hashtags and just skip me all together.
And you can create.
Have your wife call me. I can
This
go
guy's
ahead
like
and go
professor
I know.
professor hashtag over here. Like, jeez. Love it.
And you can create them amongst your community, local Brecksville restaurants, or you know, and you get with the Chamber of Commerce or the city, and really create a community around that. You're supporting the local restaurants in your area.
Yeah.
This is another way to get the word out.
Yeah. No, it is, but it's also another way for people to follow you, another way for people to engage you, and cross promote your friends.
Yeah, I
mean,
love it.
We're all in this together. Like we all know about the big national chains that have the big box places. Trying to not be negative. I just want to be negative.
Do it. Come on, it's a great pod.
No, I know, but it's all right. We all know about the big national chains that have millions and millions of marketing dollars to throw at these things. You can fight back. We're here for you, and these are some tips that you can implement. And we want you to use these things because they do work. The hashtags, engagement with the consumer, people are on their phones all day, every day. You see people in your restaurant. You can see a couple out for dinner, and both of them are on their phones looking down and not engaging. Like, do you think they're not consuming content everywhere else in their life?
Well, and think about it, guys. There's no secrets here. It's not like Applebee's and TGI Fridays have like secret hashtags that you can't see.
No.
Like it's all out there in the public.
Yeah, you just got to be
Playbook is right
thoughtful,
there.
and
You know what I mean?
you got to be pointed with it, right? Like, this becomes a strategy all of a sudden, not just some cute like reiteration of what you're talking about.
No. And I want to go back to the campaigns. If you look at some of these big restaurant groups and they have, 50,000 followers or they have whatever, they're still not engaging with their consumers.
Right.
They'll have 50,000 followers, but they'll have a post that does, 30 views or 30 likes or what have you. You need to engage, and that's why I encourage you to go to the website, download the list of 25 campaigns. Those campaigns will teach you to implement strategies that will engage with your customers and really drive people into your restaurant.
You make a great point there, because I was talking to someone yesterday about that, and we were talking about a huge corporation in the food distribution world, and they said, look at their posts, because we're working on some social media. It's fascinating. They can have that much of an audience, but so little engagement. You're talking 1, 2, 3 likes and maybe a share if you're lucky, 0 comments on 90% of their posts. And
because there's no soul.
Yeah,
there's no soul.
right.
There's no
There it
engagement.
is.
You, as the independent restaurateur, has the one thing that national chains will never ever have, and that's heart and soul.
Yep.
When you do a campaign, there's not 15 layers of committees that it has to go through before it's approved, and then it's launched, and like, oh, this is our Q4 campaign on how to do burritos. We're really excited.
Can you say TPS reports in that voice? As I
there's
really
definitely. Can you? Anthony, can you get me those TPS reports?
Yes.
No, I'm gonna need you to come in on Sunday.
This Sunday? We got a Bills game this Sunday? I don't know.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Thanks for the education on hashtags. Love that.
Of course.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Number 5. What's old is new again. I use that line all the time. Emojis to spice up your post.
Ooh.
So I have a link.
What is this emoji thing?
So it's more than just a smiley face, apparently. So I have a link in here on how to cut and paste emojis into your content. It just is visually appealing. It's kind of a pro tip. You're like, oh, that's kind of neat. It's not a wow factor. You still have to have a good hook, a good content, but it makes your content more appealing.
You know what? I've had some emoji envy before. Now that you're saying that, it is kind of neat when you see this stuff.
You know what? This never crossed my mind, but I know this works because it's working on me. Like,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I've seen posts. So think about it. I got to tell you, this might be the best tip on here because everybody, I think, can relate to you're flipping through.
Yeah.
Something catches your eye. You hang on another couple more seconds. You read it. Maybe you click on the link. Like, I think this is great.
That's like our friend at Hillcrest used these little semi-trucks one time as emojis. I'm like, where in the hell did they get those semi-truck emojis? Like, I would love to use that because that post looks so damn cool,
Yeah.
The link that I'm going to put in the show notes has like 10,000
Wow.
of these. Yeah. So whatever you're doing, like if you think you're the, chicken parm, I bet they have a chicken parm emoji.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's
I'm going to
that's
start
really
speaking
cool. I like
only in emojis.
Okay, well, that could be obnoxious.
Yeah, that's.
I would say it's very
I
exciting.
can't wait to block you on that.
Wait, I'm not already blocked?
Unfollow.
I'm flattered that I'm not unfollowed already, so we're in good shape.
All right, number 6, this is a little bit of a pro tip. Avoid outbound links. So you're like, what? I got a link to my website. I got a link to this. Definitely do that, but put it in the comments. What does Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, what's the main thing that they care about? Engagement on their platform. They do not want you sending anyone anywhere else. Great content, put a good post up, and then in the comments, put an outbound link to your website, outbound link to the menu. Don't put it actually in the post.
No kidding.
You know what? That does two things, actually. So keeps it out of the post, which I think is important. But then when you actually start the first comment, that starts the algorithm on the views of the post. Putting it out there, somebody likes it, whatever. But a like is doesn't hit the algorithm as strong as a comment does. Because a like, you're just flipping through, like.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
Instagram, it's a double tap. It's even easier. With the comment, and all of a sudden, boom, you've got a comment within the first minute of a post. I mean, it is your comment, but now all of a sudden, somebody likes the post, they like the comment, they respond to the comment.
So that's why you put your hashtags in the comments. Correct. I noticed, and I was wondering. I knew there was a strategy behind it because you're a very pragmatic guy. Like there's nothing you don't do that doesn't have a purpose. And I looked, and I'm like, I should ask him about that. I kept forgetting. But
well, and the other thing I've been trying to do lately is because I don't want to say you're trying to trick the algorithm, but you are. You know what I mean?
It's a chess game.
You're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Crack the code.
So what I've been trying to do lately is actually in the comments, I'll type a little bit further about the post and then put the hashtags in. I've been doing that lately just to see, like, okay, how does that,
I'm starting to feel that Dave sees the Matrix.
No, but I'm just.
But the Matrix exists.
I'm trying to be a student of what's going on. That's it. Yeah. I mean,
No, but it's a lot clearer to you than I ever remember it being. Like, you got a really firm handle on this. Kudos to you.
I don't think I have a handle on it. I'm constantly trying to read. I'm just constantly trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So I'm listening to you talk, and it sounds like you have a handle on it.
No.
I appreciate that.
But we're constantly studying this, and again, we're not good at it. I can tell you, I get posts. I was looking this morning for this episode. I have posts that get 1,200 likes, 10 comments. Like, that's good. That's really good engagement. If wouldn't you love 1,200 people to see your restaurant, your brand?
Yeah.
That's really important.
And your restaurant and brand is probably way more interesting than Brian.
Oh, 10 times more interesting.
I don't know about that.
But you have...
Interesting embodies... I was going to say, interesting embodies a lot.
No, but let's go around the table. I
Yeah.
want to talk to the local independent operator out there. So we have a chef / professor, an attorney / executive, and a chief operating officer at a food service company. No one at this table is a social media expert. But I can tell you that I've been able to gain thousands of followers. I've been able to get thousands and thousands of likes by doing these things, and I'm not an expert.
Well, let me break it down like this, that maybe you can explain to a restaurant. So, Anthony, have you learned more in the years that you went to culinary school or the years following it, actually working?
Well, I mean, working.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, if you want to go to school for social media or you want to take a class or do this stuff, no, just do it.
Do it.
Well,
Like everything in life you've learned that's worthwhile, you just did it.
But also, the moment that they write a textbook about this stuff, it's out of date.
See, that's a great point right there, because I deal with this in academia all the time, especially in the marketing world. Like they're just printing textbooks every year, right?
But you're teaching into a 100-year-old system.
Yeah.
The information in business is changed and instantaneous. You're, as a local independent operator, you're seeing this every day. You're doing this. What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? And what's working best? And it's not going to be, 3 posts and then that it didn't work. It's going to be 100 posts, and you're going to figure out what's working, what's not working, and the algorithm may shift a little bit, but I can tell you this, putting out good, consistent content is the number one thing that you have to worry about.
I couldn't agree more. It's one thing I tell everybody is make sure you're consistent, make sure it's good, make sure it's genuine, and don't give up.
Definitely don't give up. As a local independent restaurateur, sometimes you feel like you're on an island, but know this, you're with a community of fellow like-minded restaurateurs who want to serve great hospitality and great food to their customers, and Restauranttopia is your community, and we're here for you. But I want to go into number 7. Tag someone or a company in your post. This, and again, we talked about it in our last episode, but this makes people feel good. Whether it's a customer, whether it's a chef, whether it's one of your servers, tag somebody, let them know that you're thinking of them and that they're important.
Well, not only that, it allows you to cast a much wider net, right? Because now all of a sudden you're visible to their people.
Well, and what does it do? It fosters engagement.
Yes.
So that's the real key here. So this came up in the person's feed, and it fosters engagement. So
it doesn't even come up in their feed. It hits their notifications. So they get their notification. They go, oh, Brian tagged me in this post. Okay, cool. You go. And what are you going to do? You're probably going to like the post first.
Yeah.
You probably might comment. Now, all of a sudden, boom, you're hitting the algorithm.
You're obligated to. You kind of have to unless you're an asshole.
Because that's what happens on these social media platforms. Like, they want the engagement. They want a lot of people to be busy on stuff.
Sure.
So when you don't have a lot of views, there's some social media, I know LinkedIn does this. Like, if I have something that just isn't hitting, and it'll literally give me, like, a couple hours later, it'll give me a notification that says your post has only been viewed by 20 people. Why don't you try to tag somebody in it? Like, it's telling you.
No kidding.
It's literally telling me, like, hey, dude, like, your post ain't doing good. Here's how you can spice it up. You know what I mean?
They're trying to educate you and coach you up in the process. So think about this in the real world. You're just like, who do I tag? All right, the Anthony's HVAC company came in and got food for the office. Tag them. This softball team that you sponsor is in town. Tag all the players on that. This the school is having a pep rally. Tag them. We got pizza night, and you tag some teachers,
your employees, your servers,
your
bartenders.
A guy I worked for is kind of a master of social media. He built his empire pretty much on being that genuine kind of engaging person, and really became kind of an icon around the city. But that was one of his moves. Every time he posted, it would be like 20 people tagged in it. It was all the people at the restaurant, and guess what? They all shared. And then all of a sudden, 10,000 people saw the post instead of just 200. It was pretty fascinating how that worked. But he was pretty ahead of the game.
No. Yeah. But again, this game isn't going away though either.
No.
And it's always going to change. So no different in your restaurant, where you always have to you have to be aware, and you have to pivot sometimes, and especially like we're in a pandemic. So there's a lot of pivoting going on. But this is the same thing. Like, be consistent with it, but don't just keep doing the same thing. You got to keep evolving and moving and trying stuff, and
But also break down what you're doing now and implement these 7 pieces. This is like, I'm telling you, this is a recipe.
No, this is 101. This is
it's perfect. But can I slide in a recommendation real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Find that one person on your staff that loves to do this shit, right? Loves it. Most people I talk to, it's a chore. Again, we talked about that a little bit ago, but it's like, oh God, social media, blah.
But it's a chore because they don't know what to do.
Understood.
And again, this breaks it down to where it becomes easy. And then if you need to parcel this out, find that person on your staff who loves taking photos. Assign photos to someone every day. You have a shared Google folder which they dump them into.
Photo contest.
Yeah, and he's like, all right, this week it's Brian's job to do photos. I need 25 photos. Get that from their staff. Also, as a pro tip here on the side, make sure you get a release from your employees. Reach out to your attorney and get a simple photo release.
I keep hitting the button, but I think our pro tip sound effect is broken. I can't.
Pro tip.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
It's just on delay, I think.
Man, that's good. That's
just
nice.
on delay. I feel like we need one of those. Boop, 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 pro tip.
I'll have to edit that into post.
I love that.
All right, that's all I got.
That's all you got.
Oh, great. That's a great ending.
Amazing. I mean, this is really okay. So, guys, this is a must, and you got to do this. And even though Anthony will tell you get somebody else on your staff to do it, I would suggest this is so important right now in this environment. Mm-hmm. Learn it, and then if you want to parcel it out, do that.
Well, you still have to be able to manage it.
You got to get this done. So these are 7 easy steps. The anatomy of a great social media post. And Brian, great job, man. This is really good stuff.
Yeah, I love the simplicity of this. And again, digestible is a key word, even though it's one of the list items. This whole list itself is digestible, and I think that's fantastic because it's not overwhelming.
Thank you, guys.
Implement
this. If you need help, let us know. If you want great photo photography done, reach out to the team at Eat Local Ohio. They're amazing. The photos are really, really good.
All right, welcome to our new segment called In the Trenches. We're going to be speaking with industry experts and professionals on a little bit about the food service industry and their stories, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So in our first segment, we're going to have Dominic Lofreso with us, and he's going to talk a little bit about where he started, what he's doing now, and a little bit about some things that may be able to help you out there in the restaurant world. So, Dominic, welcome.
Thanks, Dave. What's going on, everyone?
No, appreciate you being on.
Appreciate you having me.
Dominic, you kind of like excitedly, decided to be on this segment. Tell me a little bit about like what you were thinking, coming into this.
My big thing is I probably talk too much, so you'll have to slow me down if this segment's only supposed to be so long. But I just enjoy talking to people. I love the whole interview aspect of things, and just sitting down and having a conversation with people. I feel like people don't do that enough. Especially in today's state and society, especially my age range. I'm 27, so people. a lot of times we're just stuck on social media and DMing each other and everything. So to sit down and have a conversation with somebody and then record it on top of that and share it with the world, like, I think that's a phenomenal thing to do. So this kind of stuff excites me.
If it's not talking with your thumbs, right?
Right. Yeah, we have so many keyboard warriors today.
Exactly. Yeah. Why don't we start off with like your current position, in company, and then talk a little bit about like how you ended up here.
Sure. So I'm currently an account manager at Hillcrest Foods. I've been in this position for 3 years and I think 3 or 4 months. So this isn't I'm a little bit into my 4th year. And it's crazy to say that because the time just flies by. And I think a big part of that is just because it's a lot of, busy work. You're always talking to people, whether it's calling or texting or visiting or whatever. And it's fun. And I got into this position just from knowing people. My father's always been in the food industry, and it's funny. Although in college, working in like the food industry, whether it's serving, bartending, or, working in the kitchen, being a dishwasher, whatever it might be, I never thought I'd follow his footsteps and go in the food industry. I always thought that, well, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be in sales. And, there were times growing up where you'd see him every single day, or sometimes you wouldn't see him for a full week because he's traveling. And I was just like, I'm not sure I want to have that sort of career. But there's something interesting about the food industry. You can't get away from it. It's like a gift and a curse. You get addicted to it. You love it. And then some days you hate it. But it's pretty phenomenal. My dad always said growing up, hey, people got to eat, so I'm never going to lose my job, whatever that job might be. So that always stuck with me, and I somehow ended up in the food industry and following his footsteps because he was in food distribution sales as well. His background, he worked in kitchens, and then he managed, I think, like a Bob Evans, and then him and my mom actually met at a restaurant. I think the place was called Mountain Jack's, and then eventually he went to culinary school. And then eventually got into food distribution, like the sales. Mm-hmm. So, he worked for multiple companies. I think it was Kraft, and they got bought out by Lion. They got bought out by US Foods, and he survived all 3 of those and was in there for 20-some years. And he's still in the industry, not on the food distribution side. But, through some of his connections, when I was in college, he was like, I got to introduce you to some of my friends. They could be mentors to you. And one of his friends that he introduced me to was Dave Marzik, who is the current CEO of Hillcrest. And, this is back when I was in college. I just sat down with him for dinner. There was no agenda, no nothing. And that's my favorite kind of conversations. You just sit down and talk to somebody, get to know them. And then years later, when I graduated, I worked for a different company. I worked for Cintas for a while, which is still kind of tied to the food industry because I was selling aprons, towels, chemicals to restaurants and offices. And after I realized that wasn't really my thing because it was all new business, just strictly new business, bring on an account, move on to the next one. It was kind of like a turn 'em and burn 'em. Mm-hmm. I like to maintain my relationships. I sat down with Marzik again, and I looked at every industry out there, as far as sales goes. And I really liked the culture and everything that he explained for Hillcrest. So I rode with a few people, the different reps, checked the industry out, and who knew? Like, I ended up back in the industry. So that's kind of where I ended up where I am now. And 3.5 years later, here I am.
Yeah, no, that's cool. There's definitely something about the food service industry. You have this like combination of passion for it, but then just enough craziness to stay in it. No matter like if it's on the restaurant side or the sales side or the broker side or whatever Absolutely. It is. Like it seems like you're always in the industry. You might be different, but
whatever
you're
it might
always
be.
In it.
And I feel like everyone can relate. Like, it's so funny. When I walk into kitchens, I don't talk to just one specific person. I try to talk to everyone. That there's a dishwasher. Like, I can relate to him. I was a dishwasher for a year. I was food prep. I did food prep where I was on the line, and everyone relates to everyone, and it's fascinating because everyone in the kitchen come from all walks of life. You see the conversations and things that go on and everything. It's hysterical, and like the amount of laughter that happens in the kitchen combined with the craziness that we're all like, why are we doing this? But then you have fun, and it's fascinating. It's people come from all walks of life.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so it's been a little over 3 years. So tell me a little bit about the experience at Hillcrest, maybe compared to some other employers. Like, give me a little bit of how you feel with Hillcrest and how things are going and all that.
Sure. Yeah. So outside of college, I only had one other job, and it was with Cintas. I was there for just shy of 2 years. So that's my only other like big corporation of experience, other than a couple internships I had. I interned with Bridgestone and also a digital marketing agency called Geometry Global. I had a little bit of experience of like office work, a little bit of experience working at like a Firestone Complete Auto Care and traveling with Bridgestone and stuff, that corporate life, and then Cintas, and they're all wonderful experiences. And I just love learning. So I learned a lot from all of them. But what's interesting about Hillcrest is my first like family-owned company. And although Hillcrest is small in the grand scheme of things compared to all the other distributors in the country, like the big box ones, they're small as far as that goes. But in Ohio, we're kind of a big deal. And what's interesting about Hillcrest, even though we're kind of a big deal, like it's a family-owned company, and you really feel that. Like, I know it sounds corny, but I still tell people like the whole company's based off of love. And you do feel that. You see some of the owners of the family, the Abraham family, they're wonderful and they just joke around with you. They have fun. I mean, you're laughing. And what I love about working for a family-owned company, I get to make my own schedule. There's an amount of trust between them and myself where they trust me to do the job that they hired me for, and I trust them to take care of me, you know, whether it be, you know, financially or whatever. And I've always looked at jobs as like a contract, you know, but Hillcrest is a little bit more than that. When you have a job, it's a contract between you and the employer. The employer agrees to pay you this amount of money to do this amount of work, and then you do that. But with Hillcrest, it's different because there's no micromanagement. They're not on me all the time about where are you at, what are you doing, who are you with. They just trust you. And when you show them hard work, they respond with gratitude and everything, and it's just a totally different environment. I mean, everyone is it's different. You know, at the end of the day, yeah, it's still a job, but it's totally different from working just a normal 9 to 5 or working for a big corporation or something. Like, I never really feel like I have to work. Like, I haven't felt that yet. I mean, there might be a day or two, like I said, you're in the restaurant industry, you're gonna have days where you just you're served complete crap all day, you know, and then you got to deal with it. But overall, I don't think there's been a day since I started here where I woke up and I'm like, oh, I gotta work today.
Yeah.
You know,
and that says a lot because we spend so much of our time working in jobs as people, just in general. You know, you have
Absolutely.
a job, like the majority of your time you're sleeping or you're working.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You do that more than you spend time with your family even. You know what I mean? So to wake up and have that mentality is awesome. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know, it's worth it. You know, I it's interesting, the world right now, I'm considered a millennial, and there's so many people that are older than I am that grew up in the mentality of you got to stay at one place for 30, 40 years. And then there's stereotypical mentality of millennials where, like, you know, you get a new job every year or two or 2-3 years or whatever. And Hillcrest, you know, going into it, I'm like, okay, you know, if I'm going to go into this company, it's different from just, you know, a job where you just check it out and then leave, or an internship or whatever. And so I told myself, I'm like, if I'm going to go here, like if I'm going to work here, like I actually have to put some time into it. And like, you know, at minimum, like, let's see where you're at 5 years from now, rather than being like, oh, let's see what it's like after a year from now. What I found is the working for a family owned company, like it shows. Like, the longer I work here, the more I enjoy it. Whereas I found that other places, the longer I work there, the less I would enjoy it.
So it wears off, you know, typically.
Yeah, and a part of that is just because I'm in a position where I get to do what I like, which is I get to build relationships with people and maintain them. Like, that's what I really enjoy just in life in general. Yeah. And I told Hillcrest that from the start. I said, look, I love people. I love meeting people, helping people, those sorts of things. I love food. Like, I've yet to find a food I don't like. Like that, you know, my family makes fun of me for it growing up or whatever. But food, I look at food as the byproduct of this. Like, it's not my main. Like, if you're okay with paying me to build relationships with people and interact with them, then I'm okay with going with the shop, because that's what's most important with me. And they're like, no, we love that. Yeah. And so they're very just open to it. And if you have things you like doing on the side or whatever it might be, like, they love to hear about what's outside of just the job, what's outside of work. Like, what do you like in life, and how can we be a part of that? And they get excited for you. You know, other companies, you'll mention that you like doing something and they're like, okay, what's that have to do with work? Right. That's the difference, I'd say, with Hillcrest, at least my experience. And again, you know, I'm young in the game as far as having a long-term career, but that's been my experience.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I can remember, if I could share real quick, like talking about the millennial thing when you and I met for dinner before you were hired, and we kind of talked about if you remember this or not, but it's always stuck in my head because somehow we got talking about millennials and, you know, the stereotypes and all those different things. And I asked you, I said, well, what do you think about that, you know, being a millennial? And you're like, I love it because, like, I know what I'm up against.
Yeah,
I know who I'm competing against in the millennial category. You know, so it was. When I heard that, it was the first time I ever heard somebody say that. I was like, that's pretty good. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, if all those stereotypes are true, if we're lazy, entitled, we want the corner office in our first job, we want to be paid extra. If all that's true, then all I have to do is be better than that, and I'm going to be in the top 1%. Right? Yeah, exactly, like, I don't know. I always try to find the positive side of things, and I those stereotypes don't scare me. I mean, I would embrace them and just try to be better than that, you know, which apparently is not very hard.
That was awesome. Yeah. So you know, 3-4 years later, that still sticks in my head, you saying that. So
that's awesome.
So tell me a little bit about, so you're out there, you're managing business for Hillcrest, you're working with restaurant operators and chefs and kitchen managers, all those different things. What are some of the things in the last few years that you found to be, like, got you the most excited about helping an operator, or like maybe a trick that you got really good at that you can show somebody and they can help their business or make more money, or, you know, give me one thing. Like, if there was one thing you're like, man, I'm really proud of this, like, skill set I developed to be able to help an operator, like, what would it be? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I kind of take a different approach. Like, I know you can technically say I'm in sales, but I never really look at it that way. I'm not like the pushy salesman or anything like that. My big thing is like, I just love helping people. So like my number one thing that helps with all my customers and they appreciate is, I know that sounds crazy, but what I've realized in the industry, it's not 100% consistent. When somebody calls me, like I answer the phone, and if I can't answer the phone, I get back to them quickly. And when they shoot me a text, I respond. And when I send an email, I respond. And like, people appreciate that like beyond reason, and it blows my mind. I'm like, well, that's part of the job. Like, I got to do that. And not only that.
Wait, hold on a second. You're a sales guy and you answer the phone.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize.
This is revolutionary.
I didn't realize like that wasn't normal in the industry. And what I realized is after talking to so many different people, I mean, I work with 30, 40 plus restaurants right now, and so many of them are like, oh, dude, I would reach out to my old sales rep and it would take 2 days, or I wouldn't hear from him at all, or whatever. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I wouldn't be able to sleep if I just blew somebody off, let alone a customer. Yeah. And like that's been huge for me. But as far as like just helping them out in general, like that's always helping them, because they, you know, they might need something, or like, hey, I don't know how to do this, or like we need to update our guide, or whatever it might be.
Well, it gives them security in knowing that you've got their back, right?
Yeah. And I'll have some people, and I don't want to toot my own horn or anything. Like, I try to say this in a humble way, but like it's amazing feeling when somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh, Dom's my homie. Like, he's got me. And like now that I'm like 3 years into it and I have experience, it's funny. I know, like, people have beat me up before for like, hey, you're too, you know, like you're too nice, or you need to like try to sell more, or whatever it might be. But it's funny, now people are coming to me and they're like, hey, this person wants to buy food like that. I told them, you're my homie. Like, they want to buy from you. Like, they really, you know, and now I don't even have to sell, because that person, and you know, it might not be like huge wins, but it's slowly but surely over time. And that's what I'm realizing. Like, you know, you work over time instead of just working at a job for a year or two. Like, once you're like 3 years in, you pass that mark, things start to just come to you, and you don't even have to ask for them. So people appreciate just what you do for them.
No, for sure. I love that, because it's something we talk a lot about in the podcast, is it's playing the long game. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like you can go in and get the sale and pressure and do all those things, but you're playing more of a game where you're like, you know, I'm going to build trust, I'm going to build friendship, I'm going to build all those things.
Sure.
And like you said, like all of a sudden now referrals come now, you know, and all, you know, it's a long play.
Yeah. And for me, a lot of it came down to, okay, I'm in the food industry. I've always been in the food industry, but like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some guru in food and I'm a genius and know all this stuff. So I literally, one of my tricks that I utilize all the time is, if I'm talking to somebody in a kitchen that's been in that kitchen for 30 years, chances are they know hundreds of times more than me about what they're cooking, how to utilize this stuff. Like, their work in the kitchen, I mean, I wouldn't even be able to scratch the surface of what they know compared to what I know. So I utilize this all the time. I'll tell them straight up. I said, look, I'm young. I've been here. I'm not brand new. I've been here for 3 years, you know, over 3 years. And in the grand scheme of things, you've been doing this for 30 years. So I just want to let you know that I'm looking to learn from you. I would love to learn some things from you about the food industry. There might be some times where you're asking for some items and I've never heard about them before, but I will tell you this, like, I'll work for you. I can't offer you all these expertise that like an ex-chef might be able to offer you, or somebody who's been in this industry for 30 years. But what I can offer you is I'm going to work for you, and I'm really coachable. So I would love to learn from you. And what I found is that's not very common either, because a lot of times if someone in my position, they feel as if because they're in this professional like position and they have this title, they have to walk in and like teach that individual something. All of a sudden,
you're the expert.
You
have to be the expert.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that's necessary. So I take a different approach, and I just walk in kind of in a humble way and just let them know, like, look, you know a lot more about food than I do. Let me work for you and also learn from you. And like, I think people appreciate that, because at the end of the day, like, if you don't have a purpose in life, like, there's so many people that spend 30 years in a career and then they look back and they're like, oh, I'm just spending 30 years in a career. Like, what do I do with this 30 years of knowledge? Well, when a young kid comes in and it's like, hey, I want to learn from you and let me work for you, like, I think it's a totally different approach. So I have no problem like bringing myself down a few levels to learn from them and then work for them. And what I found is a lot of people really appreciate it. And with that being said, like, I've learned a ton, and I think in a much faster way. So that's kind of the approach I take. And I know it's not normal. It's definitely different. It's, you know, a lot of people would shy away from that or tell you not to, but I don't know. That's just kind of how I roll. It's worked out for me, and I prefer it.
I think that approach could transition over time as you gain years and years of experience. But I think it's a great way to start, and it's a humble approach. It's admirable. It's awesome.
Yeah. Eventually, I mean, I have 5 years in the game, and I meet somebody that just their first year, and they have to manage a kitchen because they were short staffed and they just got thrown in a management position. Like, I can probably help them.
Sure.
You know?
No, absolutely.
But
Yeah,
it's not always that way. So
yeah, no, for sure. No, that's awesome. That's great. You know, really, I mean, I'm super grateful for you coming on and sharing a little bit about your story and what makes you tick. And that's really what this, you know, segment's about. So, you know, thanks for being on, and I appreciate it, man.
yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Dave.
You got it.
Hey, this is a high quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restaurantopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restaurantopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you, and have a great day.
This is the. Nice. Are you fucking done? Are you done? Are you done?
I don't know if I am. Can you get going?
I think the question is, are you ready to start? Not as Dave done.
Sorry.
All right.
I got to get positive. What should we talk about here?
Okay, let's
I
get
mean, what an
positive.
amazing season for the Browns.
Okay.
The Bills are still in, and fuck, let's just...
Okay, yeah, let's get positive. Let's get positive. All right.
So there's a potential bet
Yeah.
out there that if, with me and Adam,
This
Uh-huh.
he's a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, sure.
Did you hear about this? Did you hear about this, Brian?
You said it's a maybe, but it's...
No, it's a maybe. It hasn't been solidified yet because he's waiting for some concussion protocol. Something.
Is that important?
I don't know. It doesn't seem to be, but
anything is possible.
I know exactly. That's what I keep telling him. That's what I keep telling
Andy
him.
Reid on 4th down with Chad Henne as your quarterback.
Dude, how? I mean, I was sitting there watching it and I go, they're gonna run a fucking play. They're gonna. And Romo's going, oh, look at this, no body language. They're not gonna run a play. They're trying to get him offside. I go, dude, they're gonna run a play.
Yeah. when they snapped the ball, my heart sunk. I was like, you have to be kidding me. That's so unorthodox to run a play
I
right
know,
there.
I
So
know.
unorthodox.
I know.
So...
But it was brilliant.
Yeah,
Think
well,
about
oh my
it.
God!
Brilliant.
Until he drops the ball.
Yeah.
Until he drops the ball.
No, this is hero or
Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No question.
But again, the downside risk was, I think, more than the upside.
Well, listen, the Browns still have to score. It's not like you were down. It's not like that you
That's
had to get
true.
this to like go in and
That-
score. Like the Browns still had to score. Now would they? They probably would have, but
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you still. It's
I'll
not
put
like you were
my-
losing the game on
All
that, you know. But
All right, so we got a hard stop with the talent here. Big
Get the
day.
fuck out of here.
We're gonna put down some beautiful pod. We're in a good mood.
Yes. Yep.
Positive.
Everything's good.
absolutely.
So it's when what in the
Great day, Brian.
Brad's a little edgy today.
Yeah, he
Did
is.
you do this morning?
No, I did
Did you
not.
do your gratitude journal?
It's because I was late. I hate being
Okay,
late.
so get over it.
I know.
We're fine. We
Yeah, we
gave
didn't
you
give a shit.
We gave you your pop shots, and we're done.
Yeah,
It's
we're all good.
buddy. We love you.
Yeah. Appealable. This guy's gamifying appealable.
Adding to our lexicon as we speak.
Oh my god.
Our lexicon is swelling.
If you guys were playing a drinking game, for every
I'd
time
be
I messed
wasted.
up, you'd be like,
This is too much whiskey.
Can we get the unedited episodes? We could do that.